Hi, I'm Josh Cadillac, and welcome to my podcast, Know Your Shit. I've been blessed to see great success, as well as seeing the bottom up close and personal in 2008. And if there's one lesson I've learned, is that if you want to have success and differentiate yourself from everyone else out there, you need to know your shit. As a successful real estate and crypto investor and an educator, it drives me insane that people do not immerse themselves in their craft. Everyone is so busy advertising and testing new sales techniques, they forget the most important thing, the product. Here I want to talk to the folks that got this right, the most successful people in the world in every industry. Bring them to you and find out what they learned in their business that made it great. When you listen to my podcast, you will know for sure that the topics and experts we have on have one thing in common. They know their shit.
Hello and welcome to Know Your Shit podcast, where our knowledge and pride of what we do drives us to be excellent. My name is Josh Cadillac, and I'll be in the driver's seat today as we learn how to stop doing deals and start closing customers for life. So I wanted to talk to you guys today a little bit about buying versus renting. It's a very common topic. A lot of people are renting right now, waiting for all sorts of things, for prices to come down, for interest rates to come down, for things to change. Renting is kind of where you put your money when you don't know what to do with your money, right? You don't know what to do, so you want to hedge against uncertainty. You decide to rent and basically wait and see what happens. The problem is, what's the cost of wait and see what happens? Well, as you may or may not have picked up on, I don't know if you guys have been noticing or not, there's this whole inflation thing that's been going on, and it's been a bit of a problem. It's been a long time. It's been 40, 50 years since we've had any kind of meaningful inflation. And for that reason, people don't really seem to remember or know how the market responds, how money responds, what happens. And what has always happened historically when the value of money goes down is that real estate tends to appreciate faster than normal, and rents tend to go up faster than normal. In fact, there's a line that somebody shared with me a long time ago that I thought was a really good one that said, what's the difference between experiencing appreciation or inflation? The difference is ownership. In other words, if you had bought prior to 2020, if you had bought real estate, how are you feeling today? You're probably feeling pretty good because you've probably made north of $100,000 in equity, pretty much regardless of just about anything you bought. What if you decided instead that you were going to wait? You were going to take the uncertainty. We don't know what's going to happen, so because we don't know, we are going to hedge our bets and we are going to rent and we're going to wait for the apocalypse to occur, for prices to come crashing down so that we can come in with our cash and we can clean up. How you feeling today, Skipper? Not so great, right? Here's the thing. Most people have this idea that the market is going to come down in price because of what they experienced much more recently than the last inflationary market, the market of 2008, when prices did come down in a big and meaningful way. The thing is, those prices came down because originally the prices were forced up by lenders changing their lending criteria to expand the number of people that could get loans, which increased the demand. And when you have increased demand and supply remains the same, prices go up, right? But then when the banks realized those loans weren't getting paid back, they turned off the supply of money and took this market of all those possible buyers and overnight changed their lending criteria to being much more restrictive, so restrictive that very few people could get a loan, and took our demand overnight to almost nothing. The question we have to ask is if that environment exists today, and the answer is no. We're not even close to an environment like that. Banks are much more careful with the way that they lend money today. There is not the extreme amount of unqualified lending that's going on. Subprime market exists, but it's significantly smaller than it was then. That environment does not exist. And so if that environment doesn't exist, it means that we have to look then at other factors to see how real estate is going to behave. And the reality of it is the best factor that we have is to look at the last inflationary market that we went through in the 1970s and 80s to see how real estate behaved. And the answer is real estate appreciated for more than a decade at an average of 9%. Folks, to make that clear, if you have 9% appreciation for 8 years, your property doubled in value. That's much faster than how real estate normally appreciates. So when did the prices come back down? Well, that's kind of the dirty little secret. They never did. Real estate prices did move down nationwide. From 1972, when the inflationary market started, prices did not come down at all till 1991. And when they did, they fell 0.3% after 476% total aggregate appreciation. What does this mean? It means when the value of money goes down, real estate is the one place that you can put your money where it'll appreciate to offset that for you, right? And so this is the reason why real estate has gotten the reputation it has as being this great hedge against inflation. So if that's the case, what about just in general? What's the case for renting? Why would you do it? Well, renting does make sense to do, but it's going to make sense to do only in the situation that you're not going to be in the property long enough for the property to appreciate enough to compensate you for the closing costs to buy and sell the property. Because when you buy a property, it costs you money on the way in and on the way out. That property is going to have to compensate you for that in order to take and have it make potentially more sense to buy than to rent. So in a normal market with like normal 3.5% appreciation, you're looking at about 2+ years that you need to be in a property before it makes sense to buy that property. But beyond 2 years, now you need to really do your numbers and look. At 5 years, the financial benefit of buying is incredible. I mean, in the one class that I do, I actually do it in a couple of classes, but ACE Intro, we compared a $325,000 purchase compared to a $2,550 a month rental. And we did all the add-ins, mortgage, insurance, everything. We did everything as fair as we possibly could to make the rental and the purchase as fair as they could be. And the difference, cash in pocket, to the person that bought the home versus rented was over $63,000 in 5 years. Over $63,000 in advantage. So when you look at that, you have to sit here and say there is a lot to that whole buying versus renting thing. And by the way, just so nobody thinks that I had my thumb on the scale, we used a growth rate of 4.5% for the real estate and the rents, just because the last several years we've been experiencing growth rates that have been higher than that. And in addition to the regular rent cost, part of the cost that I added in on the purchase was money set aside, an extra $200 a month on top of the mortgage payment and everything else to make repairs to the property. So, I mean, I did everything I could to make it as fair as I could, and it was still $63,000 better to purchase than rent after a 5-year hold. So understand, in an inflationary market, now that was in a normal market, in an inflationary market where you're experiencing appreciation that's higher than that, where you're experiencing rent growth that's higher than that, those numbers are going to be even greater. There's going to be an even greater incentive to purchase versus rent. So how do we get our head around this? Well, it's pretty straightforward. When there's inflation, wages tend to go up. People tend to make more. But the inflation, the value of the money going down, that tends to happen faster than the inflation, especially early on in the inflationary cycle. So what happens is the value of money goes down, then everybody starts complaining to their boss and gets pay raises. But first the value of the money goes down, then everybody complains to their boss. So there's a lag between the value of money going down and people's wages going up, which means that wages tend to always lag behind. Now, this matters because let's say over the course of the next few years, the value of money goes down 25%. Kind of like it did the last 3 years, the value of money is down about 25%. Let's say that over the next 3 years, the value of money goes down 25%. And your wages go up only 20% in that same period of time. All right, so it could be 2 years, 5 years, whatever you want to say. Eventually, the value of money is going to go down that much, and eventually, your wages are going to go up that much, right? Whatever that time period is. Well, if you were making, let's say, $70,000, all right, and your purchase or your rental both represent about 35% of your income, as your wages go up, that mortgage payment is going to represent less and less of your overall income, because that mortgage payment, unlike the rent payment, is fixed. So that mortgage payment might be painful and hard to make in year one, but as time goes by, your income tends to go up. Statistically, that's what tends to happen for most people, right? So as your income goes up, that mortgage payment stays the same, but your rent doesn't. So if that rent represents 35% of your income and the value of money goes down 25%, that means those rents are going to go up 25%, but your wages went up only 20%. What does that mean? It means that while your mortgage payment stayed the same, and it now represents, instead of 35%, maybe it represents 28% of your income, because your income is no longer $70,000, now it's $94,000. Well, your income is now $94,000, but your rental has gone up faster than your wages have, which means it no longer represents 35% of your income. It represents 37.5%, 38% of your income. What does this mean? It means the wealth gap between renters and buyers widens during an inflationary market. It widens faster than normal because the standard of living for my renter, it has to fall, because while they're earning 20% more, their money buys 25% less. Whereas my buyer, their money buys 25% less. They have 20% more income, but they've been basically getting a discount on that third 35% of their income. Well, 35% of their income, that expense doesn't change and continues to represent less and less of their income. So if it now represents 28% of their income, their mortgage payment, because it stayed the same even though their income's gone up, that extra 7% that's left over, they have that. That 7% that didn't go up, they had that to use to pay for the fact that the value of the rest of the money that they earn is buying less. In other words, it helps them to deal with and offset the inflation, whereas my rental customer is experiencing that inflation across 100% of all of their expenses, including their housing expense. Folks, this is the reason why it is so critical that you encourage people, as long as this inflation exists. I mean, just the other day, we had an inflation number that came out that was slightly higher than expectation. It hasn't gone away. As long as inflation exists, you need to be encouraging customers to buy, because here's the thing. They buy. I know we got customers out there saying, well, I'm waiting for the interest rates to come down. Look, guys, the prices are where the prices are based upon the interest rates being where they are. If they lower the interest rate, that's an incentive for people to buy, which means guess what's going to happen to prices as soon as they take and lower interest rates? Prices are going to go up. In fact, as soon as the rates came down just a couple of weeks ago, guess what spiked? First-time mortgage applications. Everybody now wanted to get a house because they were afraid of missing out on the interest rate coming down temporarily and then going back up again. So let's say you buy. Let's say you take advantage of the rates where they are today, and let's say that rates go up 3% more from here. They're 11%. What are you going to be saying? Nanny boo-hoo, I locked mine in below 8. What happens if the rates fall from here? What do? You refinance the property and take advantage of the lower rate. That's the thing with real estate, right? We lock in the benefit, and then we can take and renegotiate if it becomes better later on, if better financial terms are available. So I 100% encourage agents out there and those that are just listening, that are thinking about it, they're on the fence. You've watched that house you could have bought 3 years run away from you. If you want to take and be having the same conversation about what you could buy today and whether or not you can buy it 3 years from now, I'm going to pretty much assure you that that house is going to run away from you too. If you want to stop the bleeding, if you want to get out in front of this thing, lock something in today. Lock in your mortgage payment. Lock in the amount that you have to spend, so that going forward, as the value of money goes down, you're benefiting from it as opposed to suffering from it. That, folks, is going to put you in the best position to take advantage of the inflation and what inflation has done for years. Because understand this, with that home that you buy, your primary residence, you're putting down a very small amount of that down payment. It's not a ton of money, right? 3.5%, 3%, 5%, 10% down that you're putting, but you get to experience appreciation on 100% of the purchase price. And when there's appreciation, when there's an inflationary market, that appreciation tends to come faster. So you buy that $400,000 home, you're putting down, let's say, $20,000, or you put down 5%. That home, you have $20,000. Let's say over the course of the next couple of years, it appreciates 20%. That home's now worth $480,000. If you sell that home, you're going to take back $100,000 because you put down $20,000 to buy it and borrowed $380,000. You made $80,000 on an investment of $20,000. That's a 400% return. Guys, fill me in. Where do you go out and get a 400% return? Is 20% appreciation in real estate over the course of the next few years unthinkable? No, not at all. We've experienced more appreciation than that in a 1-year span there in 2021. Do I think it's going to continue going like that? No. It's going to slow down some, but as long as there's inflation, as long as the price of everything else is going up faster than it normally does, like the price of eggs, like the price of milk, like the price of shelves, like the price of picture frames and microphones and everything else, the price of all that's going up faster. What makes you think real estate's going to be the one thing that doesn't go up in price because the value of money is going down? What would be the reason why real estate, shelter, one of the primary human needs, would be the one thing in the entire economy that you think is not going to go up in price as the value of money goes down? It doesn't make logical sense. And for that reason, I encourage you, if you want to get on the right side of at least what history tells us, you need to find a way to stop renting and buy. And if you want to take and have it be even better, find a way to get the investment property too. Get the multifamily property, live in one piece of the property, and rent out the others. Because guess what? As the value of the money goes down, the rents go up that faster as well. And now instead of being a sucker participating on the tenant as the tenant, now you're on the landlord side getting the benefit of that because you lock your debt service payment in it, and now your rents are going up faster than normal, and you get 100% of the benefit. That's another conversational topic for another time, folks. That being said, it's all about knowing what you're talking about. It's all about knowing your shit, and that's the reason why we have this podcast, and that's why I encourage you, folks. Always, always, always give people great reasons. Understand why they should do what they should do, and give them great reasons to do that. That being said, thanks for listening to me. Till next time, I always encourage you, make sure you know your shit. Take care.